Thank you very much. Let me skip all protocols, but just appreciate on your behalf and thank especially our guests, our guest speaker today, Bishop Matthew Cooker. Bishop, as usual, you said it all. But today, you added a lot of comedy and laughter in making some very, very incisive and fundamental points. We want to thank you for joining us and our parents, parents of our pupils in our public schools, as we dialogue with them to try and get their buy-in into our education reforms we started about 5 years ago. As we go into the next stage of the reform, what is now important and critical is that we should be able to sustain what we have started. By the grace of God, our term in office will finish November 11th, 2024. But Edo Best will not come to an end. And so what we've been doing this week, our Education Week, is to highlight the achievements, the reforms that we have undertaken, how we have gone about these reforms, the progress we have made, and also to let you know what still needs to be done. Parents have been very critical in our journey so far. In fact, you, more than any other stakeholder, plays the most important role in this changing world, as Bishop Cooker pointed out in his remarks. Because this changing world, usher in new challenges, both for the families and even for the pupils, the children. But we want to thank parents because you've been there with us since we started. I cannot forget that parent who came to me after the first three months of Edo Best, when we piloted this new method of teaching. This woman came and said she insisted on seeing me. She said, I have 2 children, 2 boys. One is 6 in primary 1 and one is 10 in primary 4. Since you started this your Edo Best, I noticed that the one in primary 1 no longer plays with the brother in primary 4 the way they used to. I said, why? He said, because the one in primary 1 comes back from school now. He's anxious, he's doing his homework, he's reciting his rhymes, and he doesn't want to go and play football with the brother after school. But even more importantly, he disturbs us in the morning. He makes sure that he harasses everybody to give him his bath so that he is in school on time, because he wants his name to be on the character board. Meanwhile, the senior brother does not want to go to school. But what is amazing me is that in 3 months, this child in primary 1 is already able to read. Meanwhile, the brother in primary 4 is struggling. So, Governor, is it possible for me to take the one in primary 4 to come and join the brother in primary 1? I said, no, we will address these issues. I spoke with the commissioner, and she and her team came up with another scheme, learning at the right level, where they now had to make the bridge and train and give extra lessons to the ones who had missed out on our Edo Best reforms. For us, the last 5 years have been an interesting ride. We've been able to undertake fundamental reforms in our schools. And you parents, you see it in the children every day. How did we do it? First, we have made the teachers more important. The head teacher is now responsible for the classroom and for the school and the classrooms. We have introduced technology. Now we know when the teacher is not in school. We know when the pupil is not in school. We can see it every day. We know when the teacher has not completed his or her lesson notes for that day. We have also been able to set up school-based management committees. The communities are now involved in our reform. So all of this, as you can tell, have improved learning outcomes. So I used to tell my commissioner, for us to have reform, first, the teacher must be in school. Are the teachers in school? They said yes. The children must be in school. Are the children in school? They said yes. Where they are not in school, we've started School O'Clock. And many of you are part of our School O'Clock program to make sure that every child we see on the street during school hours is made to go to school. I then said, are the children learning? Because schooling is different from learning. Bishop Cooker pointed it out. And that is the big question which we're addressing now. How do we make sure that these children are learning in school? Bishop Cooker talked about Singapore. By the time a child is in primary 6, what do we expect that child to have learned in our schools? By the time a child is finishing JSS 3, what type of knowledge? SS3, what will we have taught that child? So this year, our education week is focused on that last component of our reform, which is learning standards. In Edo, our teachers are teaching. Our children are going to school. The issue now is, what are they learning? And how do we make sure that they are learning? And what is the role of our parents to make sure that they support our reform and ensure that the children learn? That is why we are here today. On Thursday, I launched the Edo State Learning Agenda. And that learning agenda is simple. First, we must focus on reading. Every child must be a reading champion. Because if you cannot read, you cannot learn. Simple. So reading is a very key component, and today we'll be getting the commitment of parents that they will help support these children to learn to read. And now that as long as the children can read, then they can learn. So our learning agenda is first to emphasize that children can read and they become reading champions. 2, that they can learn, so that we set out the learning outcomes, what we expect these children to know at every stage in school. And then the last part of the learning agenda is that every child must learn a skill at least. We will not progress Edo. We cannot continue like this, where people say they have gone to school and they don't have handwork. So our learning agenda is supposed to focus on reading, ensuring that we measure that the children are learning, and ensuring that these children learn particular skills. Once we have able to do those 3 things, then we will have completed the reform cycle. I am very confident that we are almost there. The last component is sustainability. How do we make sure that all of these changes, all of these reforms will last? That nobody will come tomorrow and has the temerity to stop paying teachers or stop what we have put in place in terms of monitoring what goes on in our schools. Or see, we go back to a situation where these children can no longer pass exams on their own. We must ensure sustainability. And one key to sustainability, it's not magic. If you say it will be sustained, it will be sustained. Is that not so? It is in the hands of all of us stakeholders, particularly the parents. That is why when the commissioner came up with the idea of having a parents' summit, I said, yes, go for it. Make sure that our mothers are here. Make sure our brothers from the unions are here. Make sure a wide range of parents are here. We are talking about public schools. We want to make sure that we change the narrative from one in which you do not have to be wealthy to afford quality and good education for your child. Bishop Kuka told us his very interesting story of his life. What he did not point out was that when he went to school, quality education was taken for granted. Going to school meant learning. That's why he is who he is today. So parents, I want to thank you very much and say I'm looking forward to the dialogue. Tell us what we need to do to sustain these reforms that we have started. And by the grace of God, we will do exactly as we've agreed. Thank you.